Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Worqor Zormor. This is the second leveling dungeon made available by patch 7.0 in Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. You might find yourself getting cold feet, unable to put in the stonework, or just generally fluffing up. Luckily, I'm here to give you the scoop and help you reach new heights. My name is Ms. Tech and I'll be your dungeon guide. In this first section, the trash mobs will throw out their usual AoE attacks. Watch your footing and make your way to the first boss, Worqor Zormor. Frosting Fracas will deal group-wide damage, healers beware. When the boss casts Fluffle Up, 4 ads will appear around the platform, each with an arrow indicating the direction that they're facing. The ads will begin to cast Ice Scream, indicated by these large frontal AoE markers. Players can use the enemy list to identify which cast will go off first, thereby determining which respective AoE they should avoid first. However, once all of the ads have begun casting, the boss will tether to 2 of the ads and cast Cold Feet, encasing them in ice. This causes their cast bar progression to pause while they are frozen, and players will need to adjust which AoE telegraphs they're dodging first accordingly. Once the ice wears off, the cast will resume and players will need to ensure they're avoiding these attacks in turn. The next Fluffle Up cast will spawn 4 larger ads around the platform. These ads will begin to cast large circle AoE attacks around them. Again, the boss will target 2 of the ads with Cold Feet, and players can move near these ads as the first set of AoE attacks go off, before adjusting to dodge the second set once the iced ads melt. Snow Scoop will have 2 sets of snowballs appear around the outer edge of the platform. The snowballs in each set will roll through the platform in a straight line, and players will have to dodge the first set before adjusting to dodge the second set. At the same time, the boss is casting Sparkling Sprinkling, marking up all players with extra circle markers. Players will have to avoid overlapping one another as they dodge the snowballs during this time. The next Fluffle Up will have both small and big ads spawning. The boss will tether to 3 ads on one side, which results in one quadrant being safe for the first round of attacks. Once this first attack goes off, players can move into the next safe quadrant to avoid the second round of attacks. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. While there's nothing too special about the next section of trash, take a moment to enjoy the verticality of the dungeon. There's nothing quite like it in the game, and I think it's absolutely spectacular. The second boss is Cador. Wind Unbound will deal group-wide damage, healers be ready. The boss will fly into the center and form a pillar on the platform. Players must stack on this pillar to reduce the incoming damage of Crystalline Crush. This will shatter the pillar and leave behind a circle of purple shards. When the boss casts Earthen Shot, all players in the shards on the platform will be targeted by AoE circle markers. All players will need to move out from the large circle attack around the shards while also spreading apart to avoid overlapping their own circles. When the boss casts Wind Shot, all players in the shards on the platform will be targeted by large donut attack markers. Players will need to run in and stack on top of the shards to avoid overlapping donut damage. At this point, the shards will disappear. The boss will cast Crystalline Storm, and 3 line telegraphs will appear over the platform. New shards will appear in these areas that will persist for some time. The boss will again cast Earthen Shot, and players will have to avoid overlapping their circle attacks. Each shard line will also explode in a wider line, forming narrow safe zones in between each attack. Players will need to move into these safe zones while also spreading apart to avoid overlap. When the boss casts Wind Shot, the safe zones will appear over the shard lines while players are targeted by donut attacks again. While there is more room here to spread apart, everyone likes it when their holes touch, and players can easily dodge all attacks by stacking together on the shards. When the boss casts Seed Crystals, all players will be targeted by large circle markers before being encased in a slowly growing crystal. Players will need to target their own crystals to break themselves out before helping anyone else that's stuck. Sharpened Sights will have a Circle Gaze attack move into the boss while the boss casts Stalagmite Circle. Players will need to move away from the boss to avoid the point blank AoE circle attack, while also facing away from the boss to avoid getting hit by the Gaze attack. The Gaze attack will repeat while the boss casts Cyclonic Ring, this time forming a donut attack around them. Players will need to move into the boss's hitbox before turning their characters away from the center of the boss to avoid the Gaze attack at the same time. These mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. Another section full of trash with the usual AoE attacks. Watch your feet as you burn them down. The final boss is Gerr. Heaving Haymaker will deal group-wide damage, healers beware. Throughout the encounter, the boss will cast Stonework, forming special tiles on the platform that will deal attacks based on the image that appears over it. This volcanic tile will cast a growing explosion on the tiles around it until all platform tiles have exploded once. Players can dodge the first set of explosions before moving in to dodge the remainder. Volcanic Drop will target all players with circle markers. Spread to avoid avoid overlapping damage. This water tile will have a knockback telegraph appear from one side of the platform. Players should reposition themselves to avoid getting pushed into the outer wall. Sledgehammer will target a player with this lineup marker. Players should stack together or in a line to share the 3 hits of incoming damage. Arcane Stomp will cause a number of orbs to appear at the edges of the platform that will slowly begin to move towards the boss in the center. Popping one of these orbs by running into it will grant the player a damage up buff. If allowed to get to the boss, these orbs can buff the boss as well, and players will need to run around and gobble these balls up to retain the buffs for themselves. Make it a competition. The player with the biggest buff at the end wins. The boss will then cast Enduring Glory, dealing massive group-wide damage. Healers be ready, especially if your group has allowed balls to buff the boss. During the next Stonework cast, this wind tile will knock back all players from the center of the room. Use a knockback immunity or position yourself near the center to avoid getting knocked into the wall. Tornadoes will then spawn that will move across the platform in a straight line. Players will need to dodge these while another knockback occurs. From here on out, the boss can cast multiple Stonework tiles at once, and players will have to deal with the overlapping mechanics based on the 2 tiles activated. These mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into the first trial of the MSQ. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.